Welcome to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell Lewis, and thank you all for joining. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you all are having a great week so far. Well, friends, today we are going to be talking about all things networking. So, probably over the last, 2.5 years, a lot of our networking has been done digitally. It's been LinkedIn, it's been Zoomed, and it hasn't been in person. But now, a lot of us are venturing back out to conferences and events. And so that means in-person networking. I don't know about you, but I have not been around a ton of people in the last 2.5 years. So definitely looking forward to this chat that I'm about to have with the wonderful Kelly Hoey, who is a author, speaker, and a networking expert. So she will be here to give us some tips on how to not only network digitally, but also how to come prepared in a in-person setting and how to feel more comfortable. I know it can be sometimes like you can have anxiety about meeting new people and just getting out there into new spaces, and so she's going to be here to help us feel more comfortable while doing it in person or online. So stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back with Kelly. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast, and welcome Kelly to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Before you begin to bless us all with all these networking tips and great advice, let's find out a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so let's work backwards. I'm an author. I've published one book. I'm working on my second book. Lots of people come to me advice on careers and networking. So I'm working on my certification as a coach. So that's part of my year this year. And then when I work backwards from that, I have been involved in the startup community, co-founded a startup accelerator. I was the first president of a global business network for women. I was a manager in a law firm doing professional development, marketing, alumni, and I started my career as an attorney. So there's where it goes.
But you did it so fast, and it was very packed. It is packed with a lot of things. That I'm like, wait, I want to ask her about this. I want to know about this thing. So
I was going to say, I want you to ask about it. Yeah, I had a very linear career, I was expected upon graduating from high school to go to university. There was no gap year. There was do not take, no, you go.
Don't collect 200. Just go to school.
Go to school. And then it was and you will get an advanced degree. Somehow my brothers didn't have this rule, but we can have that conversation, misogyny in your own family conversation another time. And so I got a law degree and I practiced law, corporate law for 11 years. And then there was sort of an itch and grit in the system. And that's when I made a very it wasn't a big stretch. It was a big stretch, but it wasn't a big stretch. I stepped into law firm management. Mm-hmm. But really, it was when my network diversified and expanded that my career got interesting. So
because you, starting an accelerator program for women. I mean, that as an entrepreneur, I was like, wait, what? So what was that? What program did you go found?
Oh, so that was, that's a great networking story. So I had left all my, the corporate job. I had become the global president of a business network for women. And I did that for a year, advising the founder of it. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of like this advisory and doing my own thing. And I had stepped out and as part of being part of that business network, I had met all sorts of other women who were investors, women who were in business, women who were thinking about second careers, women who were founding companies. And I got an email one day from a couple of women who said, we keep telling everybody what we want to do. We want to start an accelerator that only invests in mobile first companies that have like a diverse founding team. Like there needs to be, in particular, a woman founder, not like a nominal founder, like the woman who's a founder. And we keep telling everybody what we want in a third co-founder for this accelerator. We explain the skill set, the abilities, and every time we talk to someone, your name comes up. And sort of think about like, all right, how do you get your name in the room for opportunities that you're not even looking for? So that's how that came about. So my career wish list was never like, I want to start up startup accelerator. Never entered my mind. Never.
Yeah. And that's definitely, like you said, that's like networking and like people leaving an impression on people when you touch them and connect to them. So I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about some networking. So you say that networking needs a rebrand and a new definition. Tell us about your Build Your Dream network. Talk about that.
So I think networking is every single human interaction. When I think about the two of us, it's our exchange to make this podcast happen. It's the wonderful prompts and reminders that you sent to me, reminding me about the conversation we were going to be having. It's your fabulous, get the guest ready sheet. Like all of that is part of your networking. How you show up every single day, in my mind, matters more than how you think you show up once. And unfortunately, we're still in a mindset where people believe like, all right, got the handshake, I got the business cards, I'm going to show up once, and the glory is going to, the abundance is going to flow on me. And I'm like, yeah, not so much. Because I might remember when, you didn't help me at work, or I might remember when you were, the difficult colleague or the pain in the butt classmate. And when you come hollering to me for help, I'm going to be like, yeah, not so much. So, we think it's one thing that's sort of like a one and done. I'm looking for a job. I need this. And then you show up to network rather than saying, how do I show up every single day? How can I do that better?
That's a great, that's a great way to approach it, because you're right. Like everybody is just like you said, it's this, I got to go for this one thing. And I've got to, make sure I look good, and I'm going to a networking event. I'm going here, and I've got to be on for this one time. But like you said, it's all the interactions, and you sort of don't think about that way. Like the things that I do for the podcast and the prompts, I mean, they're because I want to make it an easy experience for someone who has agreed to give their time to me to be on my show. So I try to make it as easy and as pleasant as we can, so that all you have to do is show up and tell your story.
That is so marvelous. I want everyone watching, listening to this podcast, whether you're, watching it on, the Glow Up Gyrl, YouTube channel, or you're listening to it wherever you're listening to your favorite. I want you to take this little segment. I want you to rewind like 60 seconds and listen to that again, because that is absolutely how. Can I make it easy for the other person to give me their time, their energy, everything they've accumulated in their life? How can I make it easy for them? Maybe easy for you is something completely different, but you're like, you know what? It's about the other person. And people forget that when we are networking.
Yeah. Because that's the only thing I can think. I'm like, gosh, people have other things to do. I mean, you could take other offers. Like someone said to me that, I could have chosen someone else and not them. But I'm like, you also chose to say yes to me. You could have picked another show, or you could have told me someone who has a corporate job that records on the weekends. You could have said, well, I'm sorry, I only record during the week, Kyra. but you also made it easy for me as well. So I thank you for that. I mean, that's how I look at it, because I'm like, it is like, I mean, I'm working during the week, and like I have to, do things on Saturday, and for a lot of people, and when I can, if I can move it up, after work, I try to do that for people, because I know Saturdays are a precious time for people. It's time to be with your family and to do the things that you didn't get to do during the work week. So I'm very appreciative. So the least I can do is make it easy for you to come in and be with me.
Well, it's also, for me personally, this is like, it's kind of a good day to do this. New York City, where I live, is a little quieter, but there's no construction allowed in the apartment building I live in. So it's like, there's actually a good way. I'm not sitting here going, oh, gee, sorry, noise, construction upstairs. So
can you hear it? Yeah. Like,
let's test the mic again.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, and we talk about, networking. Why do you think it's so difficult for people?
Because of the last word you said. It's a human activity. Networking is hard because we have to deal with people. And let's face it, we're weird, squirrely, just look at the past 2 years. You don't know how someone's going to react.
Yeah.
You don't know how they're going to take something. We've got all this. You're thinking, I just want one thing from you, but we don't know if this person's sick, someone else in their family's sick, they're having to have their job and homeschool their kids. They ordered something from Amazon, it didn't arrive, so they're ticked off. Like, there's a whole bunch of complexities, and that's why networking's hard. It's a people activity. We're so in our own heads that we're not thinking about, what's going on with the other person?
Right.
Oh, they've got a big job, they've got kids, and this is what's going on in their life. Maybe asking them for a Zoom meeting at, I don't know, pick a time, like 5 p.m. is not a good idea, because
right. Yeah.
Right. So we're so in our own heads, we're not getting into the heads of the other person or thinking about them. And because it's this human activity and we are unpredictable. So even with the best laid plans, we can still, hit a brick wall. And, then we get in our own heads again, like, oh, they're never going to answer. They don't want to come on the podcast. My life sucks. I'm a loser. They reject.
Yeah, I must be a horrible person.
Right. Exactly. So that's why it's hard. And so I think it's recognizing that this is not easy. There's not a simple checklist that makes networking a breeze. You're dealing with a human being. It's going to be hard because we are hard and difficult and unpredictable.
That's a very good way of, I like that, because I think people don't think about the other person a lot. They're thinking just about, like you said, in your own head. Right. And for all the reasons and things that, like you've got this whole list of things of why they're not going to answer you, or why they're not going to say yes to you, or all these things. And you're not even thinking about, well, they could just be really busy. Right. Like they've got a life too. They have a job. They probably have a family. They've got things they have to do. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I had a situation many, many years ago where literally the cat deleted all my emails. Like, I had a cat who really liked to sleep on my keyboard because it was warm. He'd like to put his head or his paw right there when I was working, and deleted not just deleted into the trash, deleted.
Oh my gosh.
I went into an absolute panic. And then I thought, you know what? If it's important, people will email back. And then I think to myself, there's probably a lot of people who are thinking, oh my God, Kelly, fill in the blank. Which B word am I? Or pick a letter of the alphabet. What was she? All the things people were thinking. And I thought, you know what? Smart people are going to turn around and reach out and say, hey, any chance that you could give me an answer on that email? And I could have said to them, please resend, because the cat deleted my emails.
Yeah, I've got a funny story for you. It involves a cat.
Yeah, sort of like the dog eating the homework. Yeah, the cat deleted the emails. You want inbox 0? There's your excuse. Cat deleted the emails.
It's funny. I'm sorry. I like that. It just tickles me. But you're so right. It's one of those things where it is about the follow-up too. Because whenever I email somebody and I'm like, oh, I don't think that person responded. And I never think that it's because somebody is being rude or, like ugly to me. I just am like, oh, let me just bring this back to the top of their mailbox because they're probably busy. If they're like me, they've got a lot of emails. And a lot of times you are like, oh, or I'm the person that always has the email and draft back. I'm like, oh yeah. I started doing something else and I forgot all the time.
Hit send. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it's still in draft. Duh. So I think that's a great way of looking at it. So when people go out into the world of networking, what do you see are some of the biggest mistakes? And you can give we could do like combination of the online world of networking and then in person too.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is people don't prepare. Like really prepare. Like why are they undertaking this activity? Why are they reaching out? And I'm not like, oh yeah, Kelly, I prepared. This person works at this company and I want to work there. I'm like, no, who is this person? What makes them tick? What's the way they want to be communicated with? Oh, Kelly, I know how to network. I just RSVP. No, why are you spending your time at that event, right? How can you use making choices like for in-person networking, like in real life, physical networking? How can you use the preparation, the research? How can you use that as part of your networking? Like maybe there's, I don't know, a Chamber of Commerce event or a meetup or a conference, and you're like, maybe I should go. Well, why don't you ask your network if anyone knows anything about it? Why don't you as part of your networking so you're making the right choice? Or when someone says to you, hey, Kira, you should go to this. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll go because you're my mentor and you've told me to do this. Instead of saying, tell me more. Why tell me more about it so that you can think, all right, is this the right networking venue for me? So that preparation and really thinking it through, because if we don't understand why we're in a room, we're not going to be authentic, we're not going to be present, and we're not going to be able to have the valuable conversations we want to have. So there's first. You mentioned it when we were just talking before. With the prior question, for me, the single biggest networking mistake is the failure to follow up. Right? Like someone gives you an informational interview that leads them to forwarding your resume and you don't tell them that you had the interview or got the job. Or someone gives you some information on some things to do and you don't tell them that you read the book or you took the course or you did whatever, right? You don't necessarily, well, you're like, well, they gave me the information, it's done. No, it's not. You can turn a one-time conversation into a relationship. You can turn a one-time conversation into a mentor, an advisor, a champion, someone who sponsors you. You can turn it into all sorts of things if you keep them in the loop. And so that failure to follow up, that's the one that I'm like, this is so easy to correct. So easy.
Yeah.
And nobody does it. And then the third thing, because you mentioned online, I think the failure to be amphibious, and by that I mean the person you are on online should be the person you are on offline. You should really just be yourself in whatever networking venue so that you're taking offline relationships online and online relationships offline. Simple.
Yeah, because you don't want to be the person that someone meets online and then they meet you in person and you're like, wait, that's like, are you even the same person that I talked to?
Well, exactly. The funniest one I had was someone said to me, you're so much taller than your Twitter avatar. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah, I am. As a matter of fact, I am.
You know what? And on that note, I'm going to leave.
Exactly.
I think that a thing that always bothers me, I like what you talked about, really digging into the why you should attend an event if you're going to an event.
That is people that just show up anywhere. Like everything. They're like, well, I'm going to this networking thing because blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to this thing. Are you going? And I'm like, because I don't have time to do all those things. Like, Kyra's not going to that. Kyra is going to figure out, like, I'm only going to the things that make sense for me. Because like you said, when you go to something that you're not really sure that you want to be at, then you're not really there, and you're not like genuine, because you're really in your head thinking, I'd rather be at home. Like, oh God.
Yeah, your head's not in it. But also too, the conversation. So there's someone I had a discussion with recently, and there was an industry conference. She's moved, she's taken a new job. There's an industry conference in her new hometown, and someone said, you should really go. This is what, here's who you're going to meet. And she was thinking it was one thing. I said, you know what? Why don't you ask around? Well, then she's like, whoa, now I've discovered that I'm not actually going to meet people that I'm going to work with day to day, because none of them get the budget to go. What I'm going to do is hear all the top people peacocking and, the stuff that's coming out of their mouth that think they're doing versus what they're actually doing. So she's like, oh, all of a sudden now the pressure I thought of trying to make these lunch dates and meeting these people, I just get to sit and like be like an anthropologist and understand the ecosystem. And she said, my strategy for networking at this event is now completely different because she did this pre-work. That's valuable, really valuable.
Yeah. I love peacocking.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Oh yeah, we believe in this and this, that, and the other thing. And then you find day-to-day reality. Yeah.
Wait, you mean you really aren't, this really isn't an inclusive environment? You mean there aren't any women in leadership? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, we believe in this. And you're busy looking at their, board.
And checking out everything and going, I sure don't see any, but okay.
But now I've got your number because I watched you peacocking on stage. So
just like
yeah. You know how male peacocks?
Yes. Oh Lord. Okay. So look, speaking of the peacocker, what's the difference between the way men network and the way that women network?
Well, the big difference, Kira, is the type of network we have. So there's two types of networks in terms of like the structure. There's a narrow, deep network, and there's a broad, shallow network. Narrow, deep network is like, people who've got your back. You might have mentors. You might have the people in your industry who are the industry experts. They're the people who call and say, I need some help, right? That kind of thing. And the activity to build those relationships, those narrow, deep networks, is likely longer over time and through conversation.
Right.
That intimacy. So that may be a network, not surprisingly, that is more associated with women. The other network, the broad, shallow network, is one that there isn't the same depth of knowledge about, that the other person, that intimacy isn't there, but it cuts across sectors and geography and industries, and it's that light touch. It's acquaintance level network. And it's typically one that's built through activity. The company softball team, the industry conference that you see people once a year. That network is typically associated with men. That's the biggest difference in terms of the type of network we have based on a preference of interaction with other people. The reality is you need both of those networks. Each of them has a massive strength and a big old blind spot. If you only have a narrow, deep network, you can sort of see like, all right, how am I going to make a career change into a new industry? Like all of a sudden, you're right. If you only rely on a preference for, I need to know everything about the person, I need to spend lots of time with them, that really restricts who you can bring into your network, because that
Right.
may not, there's only so many hours in the day and days in the week and the year, etc. Right? The broad, shallow, you think about, you want to stereotype, think about, a guy in your life that you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, why don't you have a male friend to tell this to? Because I don't want to hear the details. That level of intimacy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the fact is, but if you want an idea to spread, you want podcast episodes to hit the widest audience, well, you're like, I better have a broad, shallow network. I better have that acquaintance level network that they're going to spread it to networks and relationships in rooms I'm not in. So
Right.
that's the big difference, as opposed to women like spas and men like golf days. It's like the structure of the network.
And I agree with you. I think you definitely can benefit from both. I mean, like, I even think about, like, on that acquaintance level, like maybe last year sometime, like a few years back, I connected to someone who was a person in my industry, who was in marketing industry, but like I was just in awe of her career like path. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I want to connect to her, because she also lived in Atlanta. And so we connected, and we probably had said like maybe like 10 words to each other, right? Just through like messages on LinkedIn. And so she had taken a new job somewhere. And so then I was like, oh, congratulations. So, so happy for you, blah, blah. Well, cue like maybe a year later, she like sends me a note on LinkedIn, and she's like, hey, I'm building out my marketing team here. And I was just wondering if you were interested in, opportunities. And so, and let's have a chat. And I mean, I believe it was just, through the connection. And while we hadn't deeply gotten to know each other, but, there were moments where I just, congratulated or applauded her or liked something or commented on something that she put out there, and she remembered me.
Right.
So
right. That is such a perfect example. And I think particularly for women, we need to get comfortable with those acquaintance level relationships. So let's say that she hadn't reached out to you, but you saw that she was creating a team, like she was expanding her team, and you're like, sign me up for that. I know a lot of women are like, well, I don't know if I can reach out. I don't really know her. We've just exchanged a few messages on LinkedIn. I'm like, if you have the skill set,
yes,
reach out. Hey, I see you're building out your team. I know what your company does. Here's where my credentials fit in. Yes. I would love to be interviewed by you for this, potentially to join your team and be part of this opportunity. That's where that acquaintance level, like opportunities and ones that can really help us expand and grow. That's why you need that broad, shallow network and getting really comfortable with acquaintance level connections.
Yes. I mean, I know, because I remember like, when LinkedIn was really like growing in popularity, and people was like, oh, all these random people are connecting and I don't know these people. I'm like, connect to them, like connect, and then like talk to them, like share a few messages and see if there's somebody that is just like, like you said, like an acquaintance in your network that you may go back. Because sometimes you connect to people and then you go back later when I'm like, oh, I need this service at work. And I remember connecting to this person. So I go looking at my network to see who I can reach out to and give an opportunity. And so I'm like, then I think people got comfortable with like, connecting to people that they didn't know. Because I'm like, that's what it's for.
Exactly.
Nobody said you had to go out with them. I mean,
oh, heaven forbid.
They're not trying to date you. They just connecting to you.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, with the women, just like taking that leap, like men don't have a problem. They don't have a problem reaching out and saying, I mean, whether they're qualified for your job or not. Like, I saw you were hiring. And although I work making bats in a cave, I think I'd be perfect for this marketing role.
Oh, exactly.
Sorry, guys listening out there.
Exactly. but no, that's exactly it. But that also just, I want to say the comfort level that in terms of the usage and the structure of the network, which really comes down to understanding and suggestion for everyone is audit your network. Make sure you have relationships of both of these kinds within your network, because if you're in an echo chamber, you're missing opportunities. If you only have these light touch relationships, then you're missing opportunities for deep feedback on who you are and how you can grow professionally.
Very true. Very true. Okay, so let's talk about one or more things, whatever you'd like to share, that everybody listening or watching can do to be better at connecting to people.
Listen.
Yes.
There's a reason you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. We worry so much in networking what we're going to say. Start worrying about how you're going to listen.
That is great, because a lot of people do not listen. People don't listen. And, and it doesn't matter what level you are at, like you still should always listen to learn. That's what I always say to people. But at a job that I just recently departed, we had some people above me who never quite listened to learn. They listened to answer, which means you're not really listening. You're just catching bits and pieces. And so that you can you're listening to respond, basically. And so the person was not listening, and they essentially we got to the end, and then they asked this very question that I gave the answer to at the very beginning of my presentation, because I knew that they weren't familiar with how a marketing campaign runs and, the difference between when you use your paid, tools versus your organic or own tools. And so I set that up in my opening slide, but that person was so busy at the time trying to respond to me that in the end, they still didn't know. And I was like, wow, imagine if you just listened.
Oh, I'm sorry, you must have missed that. Let me go back to slide number 1.
Yes. And
yes, but I would say the people who are like, oh, but I want my list of icebreaker questions and I need my script for going into networking. I'm like, just listen.
Yes.
Just listen. If you've done your research, you know why you're in the room. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm here to learn I'm attending this event because, you know what? There's your opener. Ask the other person why they're there. Listen to their answer. See what they say. Ask them a question based on what they say. Don't be thinking, oh God, I asked the 3 questions on my script. What am I going to do now? I don't have a 4th question. No, just listen.
Oh my gosh. I just saw in my head an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants where SpongeBob was trying to remember all this information for fine dining. And so all the little SpongeBobs in his brain, they were in the filing cabinets going, we got to remove all this. We got to put fine dining in. And then that's what I thought of when the person that asked the 3 questions and they've got nothing left. And instead of them, like you said, listening to that person and they could get a follow-up, they're in their head going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Exactly. Just listen. Listen. And I'm having, I love that you brought up SpongeBob. I love SpongeBob. But I'm having a vision once of having a conversation. I remember when I was still working in a law firm and talking to a very important client of the firm, and the partner in charge came up because he was like, what are those 2 talking about? And we were in this deep conversation about gardening. I can't remember how we got there. But we had we were having a deep conversation about hostas and growing those in, the Northeast and versus what they're growing down in Dallas. And I just remember this partner kind of how did you guys get here? And I'm like, don't worry about it. We're having a great conversation.
Doesn't matter how. Okay, it's that we are. So
Exactly.
walk away now. Oh, God. Oh my goodness. That's a classic moment.
Oh.
All right. So before we move to 3 things with Kelly, is there anything else you'd like to tell or share with our audience about the work that you do? I'm pretty sure people are like, it's piqued interest now because everybody needs help with the networking area.
So stuff I'm doing right now, it's really focused on, people have reached out for me for years to ask for like the advice. And rather than being, like the fisherman handing over the fish, now my work is like, let me teach people how to fish. And so hence the coaching around the career and networking to get people in the right mindset on it. So that I could give someone one piece of advice and like, that's great. And then, it works or it doesn't work, but let's shift the mindset on it. So that's mostly the work I'm doing right now, as well as writing my next book and still doing a lot of, public speaking and all that kind of stuff, but really one-on-one or group mentoring situations to help people, grow their business, grow their career the way they want to. Help them achieve that success. That's what I'm really focused on these days.
Awesome. And how can the audience connect to you?
You know what? Easiest is through my website. All my contact information is there. Social, email, everything. And that's at jkellyhoey.co. And that's jkellyhoey.co.
Fantastic. And we will also drop that in the show notes as well. It's for you all to pick up. All right. Well, I certainly have enjoyed the conversation today. So awesome.
I'm like a bad rash, Kira. You are stuck with me. I'm going to flare up every once in a while. Like, just warning.
Do it. I'm good. I'm good with that. So now I'm going to ask you 3 things with Kelly. So 1, how do you start and end the day? 2 for 1.
Okay, so start the day with tea and meditation, and end of the day with reading.
Like it. Anything particular you're reading right now?
Oh, what am I reading right now? I just finished a novel. There's a lot of like career and business books I'm reading right now because I had done. Had a group of women together that I was bouncing material off of, and they wanted a reading list, and I can't give someone a reading list unless I've read the books. So
right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I love it. All right. 2, what's a goal, business or professional, that you've set for yourself this year?
My coach certification. Yeah. So, and the program I'm doing is International Coach Federation certified. So it's a big commitment. And so I feel really fortunate that I can like focus on that.
Mm-hmm. And let's see. So since we talked about books.
Oh no, I've got books.
Oh, tell us about a book you're reading, have read, or looking forward to reading this year.
Okay. So 2 books that I've read that I think everyone must read.
Okay.
The Memo by Minda. Must read. And hand in hand with that is How to Be an Ally by Melinda Epler. So in the world we're living in right now, no excuses, the Memo and How to Be an Ally. And then the book I'm looking forward to reading is Whole Brain Living by Gyrl Bolte Taylor. And if her TED Talk, A Powerful Stroke of Insight, is phenomenal. She studies the human brain, and she had a stroke, and she actually describes what it is like when what happens. It's phenomenal. So someone who studies the brain about whole brain living, because we so live in our analytical side, and we need to live within all parts of our brain to, I think, connect and be better humans.
Oh, I like that. Sounds very interesting. Awesome. I love it. Look at you just spreading all kinds of tips for us today. All right. So before I let you leave me, tell the audience 1 to 3 things, whatever you like, whatever you're comfortable sharing, that you would like for them to take away today from this conversation.
Listen, use your ears and any other, like your eyes, everything else other than your mouth before you start networking. Okay. So listen, I want to say follow up, like go to your calendar, go to your email. Who's someone you haven't followed up with? Like follow up, let them know that you got the job. Let them know what you did with their advice. Let them know what's going on. So follow up. And you know what? Focus your networking on the long term. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And you will have that web of relationships you need if you focus on building relationships that last.
Love those. Fantastic takeaways. Well, Miss Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I hope you will be a rash. I would definitely like to stay connected to you. I think I found a lot of just synergy, like positive synergy with you today in this discussion.
Me too. It's been a joy. Thank you.
Yes. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thanks again to Kelly for joining us today and providing these fabulous networking tools and tips. If you want to learn more about Kelly, check out our website at jkellyhoey.co. Also check the show notes for the link. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, visit us at glowupgirl.com. You can check out past podcast episodes, sign up to join the show if you like, grab our social links, and so much more. Thank you all again for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Until then, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.